Well, they are getting situated here. This is the time to get your stories ready and everything like that. And then we are going to ask the panel here to do an introduction along with what district and position that they are running for, so that way you know who is representing your area as well when voting comes in November. So with that, I don't know who wants to start, but if you want to just do your name and a quick background on you, and then after that, we'll kind of open it up to consumer stories and questions and everything like that. So.
Hi, I'm A.J. Peters. I'm the Democratic candidate for CD7, running in the western third of Minnesota, from Pipestone to Halleck, from Little Falls to Moorhead. So just a little background. First of all, I'm a computer nerd, but I have been a past member of the National Bipolar Foundation board member. I have a family member that has PTSD. I have a stepson that works in a mental hospital as a nurse. And I have a family member that has suffered from depression. And I actually had to go through treatment after several surgeries back in the early 90s for depression because they thought maybe I was suicidal. And got a lot of help with that. So that's where I'm at. And that's who I am. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jordan Rasmusson. I'm a state senator in west central Minnesota. I live in Fergus Falls and represent Ottertail, Wilkin, Traverse, Grant, and about half of Douglas County. And so it's great to be with you here today. Before we get in, can we give another big round of applause to Sue Abderholden for all of her work at the Capitol? And I just really, Sue, appreciate all the work and the tireless work that you put into advocating for Minnesotans. And just thank you for all the work you're doing down at the Capitol. It's not that we always agree on every single issue, but your voice is super critical to a lot of the progress that we've made here in Minnesota. So thank you for your work. And for me, this was an issue, frankly, when I first announced that I was running for the legislature. This was probably not a top 5 issue for me. But when I just started knocking on doors and talking to folks in the communities that I represent and asked them, what's the biggest issue facing you and your family, the number one thing I heard about was mental health and behavioral health issues. And so when I got into the legislature, this was a big priority for me. I had an opportunity to serve on the Human Services Committee, both when I was in the House and in the Senate. And one of the first bills that I worked on was to establish a higher rate structure for small 4-bed crisis stabilization units. We have one in Fergus Falls that does a lot of really great work, and they were at risk of closing because the rate structure was having them lose money every single day. And was on a bipartisan basis, we were able to get that bill passed and not only save the center in Fergus Falls from closing, but I'm also really proud to say this summer they opened up a new 4-bed facility in Hoffman that serves a lot of the folks in this area. So that wouldn't have happened without constituents reaching out with not just problems, but also local solutions that they knew was going to serve the community well. Another example from this session was a family reaching out about a really tragic experience that their family had, where there was just a clear gap in mental health services, where we had an individual who maybe didn't meet the criteria for civil commitment, but also wasn't wanting to, on a voluntary basis, engage with mental health treatment. And so we need to have something in that gap to both provide better services for families, but also help limit civil commitments need to go to meet with law enforcement. And really appreciated Sue and her team being able to take their expertise and apply it to a problem we identified here in our region. And now I'm excited to see that pilot in Ottertail County and actually additional areas across the state that we'll be able to learn from and see if this is something that we should scale. And then the last thing I wanted to mention too on substance use disorder, I'm really excited about the addition and the work that Minnesota Adult and Teen Challenge is doing here, especially in the Alexandria community. And that was a bill that Senator Westrom and I worked on to get supplemental funding for that project. And so really excited as well to see more resources here in greater Minnesota. And I think, again, whether it's that pilot program, the CSU's Minnesota Adult Teen Challenge, these weren't ideas that came from St. Paul. They were ideas that really came from the community, came from feedback from people in this room. And so just, I'm really excited during this thing today. You don't just get to listen to us talk, but we get to listen to your stories. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what new ideas come out of the conversations today. So thanks again, and great to be with you.
Thank you. I'm Torrey Westrom, the senator from District 12 here in Alexandria. As Jordan Rasmusson mentioned, him and I share Douglas County, so welcome to Douglas County for any of you outside of the county. But my district is 12, covers 6 counties here, Douglas County, Alexandria, all the way down to Freeport, down back through Belgrade, Glenwood, Polk County, Morris, Stevens County, down to Benson and Ortonville, which is Swift and Ortonville, or Big Stone County. And so big districts both of us have and cover, so welcome to all of you from all those areas. Great to have such a good turnout here today. As Jordan talked about, I wanted to also highlight, we're excited about the new facility Teen Challenge is building right here in Alexandria to serve Western Minnesota. It's a group I have become familiar with over the years through the Capitol, but they are bringing local solutions just like so many other areas. But some of the stories you hear, the mental health struggles along with addiction and that they are dealing with, we are blessed to have them being right here in our backyard because the need is so great. And we just need to have those facilities. And so that was legislation we were able to pass through to make that possible with the part the state is involved. But some of the stories, the Teen Challenge Choir was just at our church last Sunday. That's part of their signature, if you will. If you haven't ever listened to them or had an opportunity, I would encourage you to, because some of those life testimonials of change that with the right support and help is just brings tears to your eyes. And it's so great that we can see that transformation of those change and that opportunity that people have when they've had a struggle with something or down and out and struggled with some mental health or other issues in their lives and their families. And it's real. It's real in everybody's family. And so that's just some of the great stuff that's happening right here locally. Lastly, as a member of the Senate, I've had 6 years to serve as the Agriculture and Rural Broadband Chair. Currently, with the DFL having a 1-vote majority, I'm the Republican lead on the Ag Committee. But the reason I bring that up is one of the things, it's not just certain walks of life that have mental health issues. We deal with it with the ag budget and the mental health that we offer for farmers. And we have a dedicated psychologist and counselor that farmers who are oftentimes just busy working on their farm, but they also might be very private people like many others. But we want to give them that opportunity. We've had it for years now. The problem is people get up in age and they want to retire. And so a few years ago, we brought on a second counselor, mental health counselor in the ag, for the ag mental health counseling, so we could have somebody filling those shoes when Ted Matthews retires. And I saw just recently, I think it's next summer, he plans to step out. But he's done a phenomenal job being a resource and a trusted resource for farmers to confidentially talk to them and help them when they have family struggles, mental health struggles. And we always see a correlation with low grain prices and some of those issues spiking up. And so right now we are in low grain prices again. We've had many years of pretty solid prices, but that's how farming goes. It ebbs and flows. And so I just talk about that as another part of what we've supported. We raised some of the reimbursement and some of the money for that program, so Monica could come on and be trained and work with Ted for a few years before she would take it over, knowing he would be retiring. But that's just another aspect of mental health And items like that Sue helps advocate for, along with so many others down at the Capitol, those are the voices that we work back and forth with and try to find common sense ways to help with these issues. But look forward to hearing your stories as well. Thank you for being here.
Well, really pleased that we have 2 elected officials and a candidate here today. The Senate isn't up for re-election, just so folks know. All the House members are. So this is your chance. And as I've told you a million times, your stories matter and really have a huge impact at the legislature. So is anyone here willing to share their story right now? Okay, let's see. All right, we've got a mic coming right to you.
I actually don't have a story. I have some. I can talk loud, maybe. I don't have a story. I actually have a couple questions legislatively. So my name is Kim Spade, and I'm a social worker at Douglas County, and I'm in children's mental health. And I just want to talk about whether there's any talk right now legislatively about hiring more people at the state medical review team. We have, for the first time in a long time, we don't have parental fees for kids that need extra insurance when their parents' insurance is not covering things. So as children's mental health workers at Douglas County, we've been making a lot more referrals to the state medical review team for kids to get TEFRA, and there's barely any workers there, and they are totally overloaded, and it's taking months and months to get these kids eligible. So just wondering about that. And then always wondering about funding for dental care for kids. I have a lot of kids that are on Medicaid that I work with, and we just can't get them to dentists. So that's just an ongoing issue because our dentists do not accept Medicaid. I know Prime West has done a nice job of reimbursing at a higher rate, but that's just, it's an ongoing issue. So that's questions today for the panel. Maybe you, Sue, too.
All right, I'm going to get all my 10,000 steps in.
Thank you, Kim, you said. Oh, is this not on? Oh, gotta eat it. So, I can usually talk loud as well, but I'll touch base just on oh, that's better. Oh. Anyways, touching on the dental issue, and you know as well, with the Caring Hands Dental we have in town here, to me, that's a model we should try to be able to, I'd like to see us expand if we can. But the other thing is, for years, we have not been able to crack the nut dentists to not take patients because of such a all or nothing system. And there is a happy medium. It's just unbelievable that we haven't been able to figure that out in the process. And it's so many strong opinions that just seem to be wedded to one side or the other, and so nothing gets resolved. To me, there's got to be a way to give them a percentage that works with their practice so we can have more people offer those. Because most dentists I talk to want to be helpful, but they can't give away their practice and find all of a sudden half of their schedule being filled up. And there's a percentage that the state requires them to meet if they're going to do any, and that needs to be revised. So, but the Caring Hands Dental, I assume you work closely with as well, Kim. I'd be interested just on any feedback you have. Everything I hear, they do very great work, and people come from far away, but that's the problem. They're coming from a far away to reach this facility, which is not very common. There's not very many places like that in the state. So I hear what you're talking about there. As to the employment, I haven't heard about any more hires. Some of it is just the struggle in the workforce and getting people hired. We're seeing that in a lot of different arenas, but I'll let Jordan touch on that as well.
Thanks, Kim, for your question. The only thing I'd add on the dental piece would be up in Fergus Falls, we had a really great partnership with the Department of Human Services, Apple Tree Dental to build a new facility up there. I think we continue to see workforce issues across all of what I call the caring professions, including in dentistry as well, which can lead to some of the issues. But I think trying to make sure that we're making progress in Greater Minnesota, having those resources needs to continue to be a priority. On the state medical review process, if you were to go to DHS, there's a lot of openings that they have across their agency. There's also a lot of programs that perhaps the legislature has authorized or even provide funding for that are still yet to be implemented. And so I think that's an important role that the legislature plays too. It's not just writing the legislation, getting it passed, but making sure that once these changes happen, it actually is implemented in a way where families can take advantage of these new resources and programs that are out there. So thank you for raising that to me, and that's something when I'm talking with DHS, I'll make sure to mention.
And I will say that the department did ask for a few more staff, but as everyone knows, it's sometimes hard politically to get more staff to the Department of Human Services, but I think for the SMIRT team, we've seen that backlog, and especially with kids who are waiting in the ERs, it might be something good to look at next year.
Well, I can't talk about the state level, of course, running for a federal office. But what I've seen in all the medical industry is we do not have enough professionals to work in these areas to handle the problems that we need. And that is a problem all over the country, especially in rural areas. What I think we need to do is start creating more. This is not your immediate fix. We need to start training more medical professionals. We need to make sure that we, that we have the funding to do that, and that can come through block grants to the state so we can create the training programs needed to do these jobs. I'm going to lose my voice here in a second, so I'm not ready to talk about the dental. I believe we have a major dental problem in our healthcare system for both children and seniors. And we don't need to work together to find out how to handle that.
And we learned that we can't have them both on at the same time, so I'm going to turn this one on so you can talk.
I'll just talk loud.
No.
Hearing that dental is fabulous, they have had a wait list and you can't get in, and it's been over a year. So that's dental dentistry too. So that's our dilemma. We have a lot of kids and they can't get care. Obviously, mental health care we have a little bit better luck with. But dental care is just a large issue, and those are great programs that you can't get into. So that's my point. Thank you.
I believe there was someone up here who wanted to share a story. I thought I saw him.
Did someone raise their hand in this area? Cindy, you did?
The only thing I wanted to say, and this was about 5 minutes ago, because you all pretty much covered it, but Prime West is the premier, in my opinion, dental provider in these 5 county areas and in further north areas of Minnesota. It's expanding every year, and yet we cannot get hygienists. They have one hygienist who's going to go on medical leave, and then they will have no hygienists. Doesn't matter how many dentists they have no hygienists. And when they, so they're going to be going for temps. I'm not sure I want a temp working on my teeth, you know? And so it's just, I don't think it has a whole lot to do with politics. I really don't. I think it has a whole lot to do with making the incentive great enough to get these people who are graduating from school now to want to come out here and, I'm sorry, backwater Minnesota, rather than the big cities where they might make more. I don't know if there are people who grew up here and then left to go do these things. Give them an incentive, you know, come back here, work for us for 5 years, and we'll pay you this much money, then you can go do whatever you want, kind of thing. But something has to be done to get these professionals here so the work can continue, because my teeth hurt. Thank you.
Cindy, thanks for sharing that. I know we have another story here.
Hello, I want to stop and recognize all my support people who are here, my family, my friends, all my workers and providers that I've had. I'm very blessed to be able to get the services that I've been needing. I do see a lot of people who are suffering and who are on those big waiting lists. So here's what I'm going to say. Hello, legislators. My name is Amy Keene, and I live in Alexandria. I am unemployed certified peer specialist. I'm here to talk to you about some mental health services I receive, and I would like to tell you that the things would be better and make services more available. As I have been working as a certified prayer specialist for 7 years, and I'm now just volunteering at our local drop-in center here in Alexandria, where I use my peer specialist skills to help my fellow peers or consumers. I have witnessed trouble with shortage of staff and high staff turnover. I have some ideas how to help this problem. First, it would be good to grant more scholarships and grants to colleges. Then also lower interest rates on the student loans. This would, in my opinion, improve the quality of services and make it easier for employers to have lower turnover rates and help potential employees wanting to work there. Some other services that need help are the issues of lack of affordable housing and the dire need for crisis beds. I am grateful for the services I already have in place. However, I would ask that you continue to improvement. Thanks for your time.
Okay, we'll go ahead and take another story.
Okay.
I'm going to try your mic. My name is Jody Rehusky, and I am a children's mental health social worker at Douglas County Social Services. I've been in mental health services for over 30 years, and I want to say that my daughter, who kind of has saw me do this her entire life, she ended up wanting to be, she's very passionate about it as well, and after graduating from college, in psychology and biology, she has a plan to become a PhD level psychologist and has worked very hard with a very high GPA and a lot of effort. Has worked at Sanford Brain and Spine for 1.5 years, is doing research right now, and the reasons why she's doing those jobs before getting into grad school is because it is so ridiculously hard to get in. She's applied across the entire country with almost a 4.0 GPA and a lot of experience, and they might take maybe 5 each graduate program. It is so incredibly hard to get into these programs. One that she got accepted to will cost her over $500,000. That would be her loans. She got it deferred for 1 year, luckily, in case she can't get in again, because she wants to do it so badly. We have people who want to do this work, and they can't afford it. They can't get in. And so, Amy, I hear you when you say, let's bring some more scholarships. Let's help expand these programs. for these people who really want to do this work, and we just can't get it. We just can't get it done. It's ridiculous. I've learned a lot through her program. So she's passionate. We're all passionate. We need more people to get into the business because we just don't have enough providers. And there's a huge gap. So thank you.
Hello, my name is Sean Calhoun. I'm from Morris. And, well, mine's, I don't swear, I have a question that I've had for a long time. And it doesn't seem to be nearly as serious as the question you're posed here. But it's something I'm dealing with, and hopefully I'm not the only one. Because I kind of look like, I feel like I'm slipping through the cracks in one area, and that's my insurance. I have retinal pigmentosis. I've been completely blind since 19 over a period of time. Now I can see white light in the dark. That's fine. I'll never complain about that. Never will. But I've been on disability since 2011, and right now, based on annual raises and no other jobs, I've worked since 2007, I make $1,632 a month. And I get direct deposit into my bank in Morris here. And what I get for food stamps is, thankfully, but it's not, it's $23 and some odd change a month. Based on my history of life experience and good and bad and past drug use, I have a place they got of my own that's 3-bedroom, which I do not need, it's just me and my dog Clemson. But I was on, at one point, almost homeless because of my criminal record and two places where I did not meet the landlord and the neighborhood was toxic. And a lot of that had to do with me not being myself because I was on methamphetamine, which is a drug problem, which has already been talked about here. My question is, I'm 3 years removed from methamphetamine. I'm not working and I'm looking to work. I'm starting to go to school online, and that's been a struggle being blind. And I want to just MA so I can get annual waiver services and get some like health care as I get older. I'm 49. So it's not gonna get better, you know. The Sands with Upbell class. And so my question is, I'm not able to give a little help if I was in like some rental help or something. I mean, I might not need insurance. Right now I just need insurance, and I'm having to require to get a job that pays me $65 to $700 a month. And it's been a struggle to find a job because unlike other disabilities, which disabilities are all equal in that disability, it is difficult to find work in a small town being completely blind. It's even harder to find someone to give you an opportunity to do that if you could do it. I just want MA, and because it'll open doors for me and possibly work, and then I can get off of it, I can get off of disability and become independent, which is what my whole goal has been. But I've had some obstacles here, non-drug wise, throughout my years of being clean that I don't know how to get medical assistance. And right now I'm taking 4 pills, just at 49, which I think is pretty small considering my age, you know, but it's only getting more. And I'm probably paying a total of $20 total for that. But I've been a budget since I've been blind, I budget to the nickel. And I just don't know what else to do, because even if like my bills go up maybe $10, or maybe a Big Mac goes up $5, I don't even go out to eat, but I sure don't go to McDonald's because it's expensive, but I mean, it's great. But I don't even go out to eat, and I'm down to the budget. I mean, I don't know what else I can do on my own to be able to have an independent and a career, get off disability. And I think part of that, a lot of it would have to do with MA, if I could get that, I get some services, and I'm just wondering, you know, I think everybody that is disabled in Minnesota should qualify for MA. Whether they need it, want it, or they get other stuff, yeah, that's great. But I somehow fall through the cracks. My work, where I get paid has been through, I've worked since 12 till 2007, not a gap in my work history. That's why I get 1,600. It's still poverty line, but it's better than some of my other peers get who make it work through working, this, that, because they're able to drive, they're able to do this, they're able to work. And I'm just wondering, is there any light at the end of the tunnel for me? And I'm sure there's other people that might be like that too. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Sean, you said?
Yes.
Sean, thanks for your story. Is this coming through? Shouldn't have been. Okay, there it comes. So Sean, the personal battles you've went through and conquered and are still conquering. Just first of all, state services for the blind. With your blindness, if you haven't connected with them, I would strongly suggest connecting with them, and along with the workforce centers, because if there's some training or ways you could learn other skills, they are the source for that. I'm blind myself. I've went through some of those programs years ago in college, through the summers, to learn how to use a computer with speech on it and things like that, because that would expand your employment opportunities. There's an incredible amount of work opportunities from home, and if you could get the right equipment, that might be the magic that you need. Or in Morris, I know they have a local city bus, so you've got a little more opportunity to get around easier to businesses. I would say don't give up, though, but with your spirit, I can hear that you want to find a way. I would encourage you with State Service for the Blind. They even have situations where you might go for 2-3 months or longer to more intensive training programs that really will dive into computer skills, orientation, mobility skills, and other things that just would be helpful in the job force with the visual impairment. You can get past that with many jobs, and customer service and other jobs that are at home. I talk to people frequently when I'm either out door knocking or at meetings, and there's incredible amount of jobs that can be done even from the home. It's one of the reasons I'm such a champion for rural broadband and what it's done to our rural communities to make working from home, part-time or full-time, a real possibility with the internet. I would just want to be encouragement to look in some of those directions. Happy to talk with you further as well about it, but those would just be some ideas I have with you, and try to hone those skills. Is it SSDI you're referring to?
I think that's what I need.
That's okay. So and as to the MA thing issue, we have the medical assistance for MAEPD, medical assistance for employment for persons with disabilities. Years ago, I sat on the Ticket to Work federal commission. There was 12 of us in the nation, and the whole objective of that program, which I wish would be revived and brought back much stronger, but the whole idea was to have more employment opportunities, working through partners that are very dedicated towards helping persons with a disability learn the skills and get past what might be the disability that's holding them back or making it more difficult, but then not losing their benefits right away. It would slowly ramp down rather than having a cash cliff. That program doesn't do what it was set out to do, although I still hold eternal optimism that that program or something like it is still the way we need to be pushing, and that would be MAEPD concept, where you have your medical assistance, even though you have employment for persons with disabilities, at least for a ramp down period as you get established more and more in the employment arena. So I like your optimism. I appreciate your story, but I hope that's a little helpful, but it's also helpful for us to hear, because that's the reality, and that's how we can bring these stories back to the Capitol.
Okay, we've got another personal story.
Hello, my name is Dustin Anderson. I'm from Polk County. I'm diagnosed with bipolar and TBI. Trying to keep my story short. In 2001, I suffered a traumatic brain injury at work, which left me permanently disabled for about 17 years, and I spent about 2.5 years in the Minnesota Neuro Rehabilitation Hospital. Jumping to the next part, I transitioned to a brain injury specific group home. And then about 2 years after there, I purchased my own house and lived on my own for a bit. And through that time, I still suffered with a lot of short-term memory issues where I couldn't remember a first page I read out of a book. So I looked into ways to get past that, and I found a book. It was The Power of NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Reprogramming. So I read that book about 60 times before my short-term memory finally kicked in, where I could remember what I was reading, and I practiced the different steps within there. So during that practice, I was able to dive into my subconscious within my brain and change a lot of the negative thinking to positive thinking. And through that itself, it brought back my short-term memory. So now today, I have no short-term memory issues and am pretty much fully recovered from that brain injury. Jumping past that, I learned auctioneering, so I watched some YouTube videos. So I became an auctioneer for a couple of years, did that. And then I said I wanted to learn guitar, so I learned guitar through YouTube. And where now I'm at today with about 30 songs, and I've written 8 original songs. And I was playing at several different bars, events. I played in Chicago at the Arcada Theater. And then coming back from in 2015 from playing there, I had a horrendous house fire, which took everything I had and the love of my life, my German Shepherd, which was also my service dog. And a month before that, my insurance lapsed, so that brought me to where I couldn't recover anything. So it brought me to a really bad spot where I was really depressed, really suicidal, and a friend of mine seen that and reached out to Polk County Human Services. And I got connected with Lori, a magnificent woman, through Polk County, which helped guide me through the process of sharing my emotions, how I was feeling, and set me up with a psychologist where I was talking with her for about 5 years. So the help through Lori, through Polk County, I mentioned maybe I want to go to school in 2018. And she took it upon herself to push me towards that, which I'm very grateful for. And she helped me assisting signing up through FAFSA and through Alexandria Technical College. And after that, I went to college, and it's the first person in my family to go to college. So I was 38 when I started college, and was on the dean's list for 3 semesters out of the 4. Had a GPA of 3.6, and I earned my associates in applied science in cybersecurity and information technology. And in 2021, I landed my first job, and I've been working as a cybersecurity technician for the last 3 years. So through the many different struggles, there's always a positive as long as you keep pushing yourself and pushing your mind and having the assistance through like the mental health assisting you along the way with the help from the Polk County Human Services, through Reasons for South, conversations, meetings that I went through with Kesha running those. It's helped me drastically to where I'm at today. Thank you.
Yes. No.
My name is Stephanie Westrom, and I'm permanently disabled. And I want to ask everybody in this room right now who has been certified disabled, please just raise your hand. Don't be afraid, okay? Here's my issue. I live on the ground floor of my apartment now. And as you can see, I'm on oxygen. I'm supposed to be on oxygen 24/7. Sometimes I don't need it because I feel like I'm getting better. The issue that I have is, like I said, I'm permanently disabled, and I've got to go down flights of stairs, and I've got to go up flights of stairs, and I think it should be mandated into law that if you have an apartment anywhere, that there should be elevators for the people who are permanently disabled to get up higher. And I don't see that. And I want to know if that could be looked into so that people who are permanently disabled can get to where they need to get, like housing in Morris. They've got an elevator in that 10-story building. You know, think about the people who have to just go up 2 or 3, and then they got to take all the stairs. That's going to kill them. That's going to make them hurt, where they want to go back to the doctors and everything. So I really want to know from the senators and the young man sitting on the end if elevators could be put into apartment buildings to help people get to where they need to go. And I would like to hear from it today. Thank you.
Well, I just want to thank everyone for sharing their stories, and just a couple of things I want to talk about. First is on the workforce issues with mental health. Amy, Jody talked about that and how challenging it can be financially to choose mental health as a career, as a profession. I think one of the things that we have to think about as advocates for mental health services is what's the best way to target funding. And I think one of the discussions that will come up at the Capitol this next session is there have been a multitude of different grant programs that have been introduced. Sometimes we'll have loan forgiveness programs. And oftentimes I would say the reason that we see those programs get passed is because the fiscal impact is more limited. It's a targeted pilot grant like the one we have for Otter Tail County, or it's a loan forgiveness program for a specific group of people going to specific places. And I do think one of the things we have to look at is just the fundamental rate structure. And that's something that, when we're looking at the dollars that we can go towards mental health, I think that's a question that we all need to look at is, what are some of the trade-offs with funding? Because we can provide these different grants, these different targeted dollars, but if the core economics of the professions, or the core economics of the provider models don't work, I think we're just going to continue to have more and more issues. So I think that's something, I look to this room for feedback and thoughts about, when we do have funding that can go towards improving mental health services, trying to attract and retain mental health professionals, what's the best bang for the buck? And that's an ongoing conversation I think we'll have this next session. And then specifically on the question on elevators and apartment buildings, I serve on the Senate Capital Investment Committee, and it's definitely something that we're thinking about when state dollars are going into different projects, making sure that they're complying with ADA, and we'll oftentimes have different projects where they're trying to add in elevators, do other types of services, especially in affordable housing units or public housing, and that's definitely something that is taken a look at. I think if we think about kind of a broader mandate, one of the things I get concerned about is the cost of those elevators can sometimes be $100,000 plus to get established.
But lots of light forwards with people that are disabled.
I would agree. I think the piece of it is, especially in rural areas, we want to make sure that we have housing options, housing providers, and so I think that's why I think we should look at the state facilities that don't have elevators, that don't comply with ADA, and try to work on building those and kind of leading the way through that versus a kind of blanket mandate where you could have that additional cost end up preventing further development of housing in Minnesota. But we have the ADA, we have our state regulations as well, and it's something that we need to continue to obviously work on and do better on.
Let me just add in a little bit what Jordan said, Jody and Amy's comments. We have loan or interest forgiveness programs or other loan forgiveness programs. Those are some ways to target the hygienist shortage, perhaps, is where we should be looking at. The other thing, and Jody, I think you brought it up, sort of, the number or the cap we have on our medical and our other professional degrees should be lifted. And I have argued for this for many years, and we should, if there's more nurses, there's more doctors, there's more hygienists that want to get into school, more psychologists, let's let them get into school and get that training. Because I went to law school. I can tell you some years an LSAT score of X would not get you into law school. Other years, if they were short of candidates, they'd lower the threshold, so an LSAT score of the same number would get you in another year. And so my point of bringing that up is that test is not usually a final determinative of whether somebody's going to make it through law school or medical school or professional school. And so we need to get more real. Open it up. If there's people that want to try it, have a passion for it, why should we be limiting so many people can graduate? Because we need them out in the market. And then they can set up clinics, they can be resources across the state. And so that's my soapbox on that. I think you touched on it, Jody, and I just wanted to say you're on the right track, and your daughter is experiencing this. I'm sorry for that experience being the case, but maybe we can still get those caps lifted eventually, because we shouldn't be so tight on how many people we graduate just because there's other forces in the market that are trying to control how many people go through it, and we have many more people qualified. To the elevator issue, I was trying to figure out, I thought you mentioned you were on the first floor, but then you still have steps.
Yeah, I'm on the lower level, and then I have to climb up the steps to go out. And then when I come back in with like laundry or food, I've got to go down those steps to get to my apartment.
Sure. And a lot of that becomes a dollars and cents issue, unfortunately. Most building codes now, my understanding, and I'm not an expert in it, is if it's being built new with multiple levels, there is elevators, and the ADA is part of what has brought that into effect, but it also does allow a grandfather of older buildings. Is the building you're in an older building, or is it a pretty new building?
An older building.
Okay, and that's part of the issue, and it comes down to dollars and cents. And not everybody needs the elevator, and so sometimes there's always this give and take of, can we find enough facilities that do have an elevator? And I don't know if you've had a chance to look for others that maybe are more conducive. I know with some of the new buildings that are going on, we've got one right here in downtown Alexandria, that they do have elevators in them as they're being built new, but it is older housing stock. The reality is, if we mandated it, they would probably shut those buildings down, and that would not be a desired outcome either. And so that's kind of the balance that we have to try to find and meet those needs for different persons with different disabilities. And so there might be some people in the Stevens County HUD or HRA that could maybe help you find something that's got an elevator, and maybe a move is a possibility. So that might be another resource you want to check out.
Thank you, Senator.
Well, we do have a problem. We do not have enough affordable housing anywhere in rural areas. We need to build more. I do know that we're trying to do something in Eagle Bend, Minnesota, and which is called Hilltop.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I guess we have a few fans for Hilltop up there. But they took the old high school and they're trying to turn it into senior housing on there, and which would include having to put an elevator in. We have buildings around the area that we could renovate with the heritage system. We need to allocate the funds from there. Basically got grants to the state to help them to do that on that area. Some of the older buildings probably can't handle an elevator. But we need to build new buildings that do have the elevators, but they have to be affordable for people that do not have a lot of money. We've got to stop building the stuff for the millionaires and start building stuff for people that don't have a lot of money. So that's how we need to go with this. Yes, I agree. It's tough to handle these old buildings with elevators. We might be able to put a lift in affordably, but I don't know. I'm not a builder, but that's where we need to go. We need to go where the common people are working, and we need to make sure that they have the stuff that they need. I'm an older person, you know, so I'm not disabled or anything like that, but I do know it's harder to move around now. I have a good friend who's 82. He doesn't want to move from the second floor apartment because he's been there for so long, but he has to. I mean, we don't want to force anybody to do anything they want to do, but we have to make it easier for the people to work in these areas. Thank you.
We have got another person there, okay?
Hi, I am Britta. I am the peer support specialist for Region 4000. And I'm here because I have a lived experience with both learning disabilities and mental health issues. I deal with a lot of anxiety. But I am here because I'm very passionate about advocacy. I was lucky enough to grow up with two parents that were very good at advocating for me and my learning disabilities and my other issues, and in a town that had a lot of services. Not everybody is that lucky or having that and one of the things that I have been seeing a lot lately, because as we all know, the price of everything has gone up. And those of us are the people that are on that fixed income, like the gentleman over here, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his name right now, said he uses a budget, and like even that $10, $15, $20 increase is a huge deal. And another thing that I've run into a lot lately with my people is they have to choose between some basic dignity issues over either having food or their medication, and one of them is laundry. Clean laundry is a huge deal. Most of you do, but some of you don't have any idea what it's like to have to go out with dirty clothes on because you either chose to eat instead of washing your clothes. Or trying to go somewhere for a job interview, and okay, can I go find somebody to let me use their washing machine because I can't afford the $450 to $850 for a single load just to wash. Forget actually using their dryers, because that's another $3, $4 a piece. I mean, it would take you, for a family of 4, sometimes it takes about $30 just to wash your clothes for what you need if you have to go to a laundromat. And that's a huge deal. And I have no idea how you can make that. I mean, I don't know where you could make it more affordable, easier, drop-in centers, having access, but there just needs to be access for people on that fixed income for something as simple as the dignity of having clean clothes. So.
Thank you. I've got a story up here. Or you? Oh, okay.
Give it a minute to, there we go. Good morning, Emma Jean Ford from the Douglas County HRA. listening to some of the housing questions here, I wanted to ask the senators one thing. In particular, Minnesota NARO, National Association of Housing and Redevelopment Officials, has started asking for some changes in the discrimination laws, and one of our proposals is to make Section 8 vouchers, the denial of someone with a Section 8 voucher, a discrimination, and that has not come forward yet. So a lot of wonderful people in the room, wonderful people we serve with Section 8 and with Bridges initiative programs, which are for people specifically with mental illness or mental health issues, and those are great programs. And like we said, housing is hard to get here in the Lakes area. It's very competitive, and now you have someone with a voucher, no landlord that can turn them away just because they have a voucher. This tenant could have everything right about them. They could have the right, be okay with their income as far as what we would do and what they would do. It would balance out. They have good rental references. They have no criminal history. They have all of this, and landlords are still turning them away because of the stigma of having a rental assistance voucher. What is the possibilities of getting that pushed through or eventually adopted? That I find that discriminatory. You're literally denying someone housing because they're holding a rental assistance voucher. And people with rental assistance vouchers tend statistically to be in housing in place for 8 to 9 years. They're stable renters, but they're getting denied all the time here just because of that voucher, and there's nothing we can do about it.
Okay, the Mental Health Legislative Network is supporting that bill to end that discrimination, but let's see.
So I know the part that I'm maybe a little more familiar with is with Section 8, there often is an inspection too, isn't there?
Yes.
And that's where is that what you're referring to? Many landlords
No,
may just say, I'm not going to put a railing in, or I'm not going to redo this. That's the part where I've heard most of the time they don't want to use it. But you're saying they're not an inspection issue that they need to repair something or put
They're not even getting to the inspection.
Okay.
Landlords might be citing that, and I'm not saying all landlords. We have a lot of great landlords in this community who love to work with us and love to work with our clients and have really great experiences. We just held a landlord symposium, had over 30 landlords there, open conversations, had a great time. But we also have plenty of landlords with all of these rental units that are saying, I don't have to rent to you. You have Section 8, so I think you're going to be a problem. There's a lot of stigma that goes with that. So I'm saying they're not even getting to the inspection. And then understand the inspection is really basic, bare minimum life safety stuff. It is not complicated inspection stuff. Very few landlords fail them, and very often it's minimal. And also the Douglas County HRA offers grants to make repairs to meet that inspection protocol now. So we'll grant a landlord up to $2,000 if they have a major repair that fails that inspection. We'll grant them $2,000 to make that repair. So that's money for the landlord and incentive, but they're still saying, well, they're Section 8, they're going to be a problem.
Well, and I guess that's the area I was mostly heard about is just it may be a house that somebody's lived in for 10 or 20 or 30 years or longer. Just with the inspection, there are different levels of inspection, a little bit like the elevator issue we heard about. And so oftentimes it becomes an issue of the owner saying, I've got a perfectly fine house that people have been living in. They may not want to do the improvements that this inspection would require. And I know there are different levels of inspection. So that's the area that I'm the most familiar with, people talking to me that haven't chose to take a Section 8. But you're saying if that's all passed, then having them not deny somebody just because government is paying part of the bill.
Yeah. And there's only one level of inspection.
Well, that's Section 8. There's other inspections that I know go on in communities and cities and that. So some of those inspections are different than the Section 8 inspection.
City
So that's
rental-
what I'm referring to.
City rental inspections are the same in Section 8, it's the same HQS standard.
In some cities, that's the case. I do know from other experience that not all of those cities are the same either. So, but that's a kind of a different point. But that's why I'm bringing it up. But that's what I've had people bring to me. Jordan?
The big problem that we have with housing is we don't have enough. And if kind of like our solutions, I think, have to go back to more units need to be built in Minnesota, you know, especially up in this area. Douglas County, Ottertail County is actually growing faster than the state. You know, we have a lot of housing demand. And when I've talked to developers, both in the affordable housing space and outside the affordable housing space, they say that Minnesota is a really challenging state to come build in. It can oftentimes be more expensive because of our building code. And additionally, we can have this really complicated web of local zoning and ordinances that make it really challenging for people to build new apartment buildings, to build townhouses, to more density. And so I've worked a lot with a group called Housing First, which represents home builders, residential builders across the state of Minnesota, to try to reform some of those zoning laws, permitting laws, building code regulations, to try to make it easier for us to actually build more homes. And that's single family homes, that's multifamily, and I think we just need to see more units coming into the state. And unfortunately, a lot of that capital is going to other states where it's easier. And we need to make sure that we're looking at that core problem of getting more units in there, because then I think we'll see these issues like the Section 8 issue. That, you know, landlords maybe will be a little bit hungrier, right, to find a tenant that's, you know, going to have secured payment, and they'll be more interested, more willing to take Section 8 as well, versus, you know, kind of a mandate approach. I worry that at the end of the day, we'll still end up with the same problem, which is that we don't have enough housing units.
We have one more question about housing over here.
And, yes, please go ahead.
This is very brief. A close relative to Section 8 is GRH-funded housing. I have been working for 3 years to try to get GRH-funded housing in existing houses in this community, and just, I'm not looking for answers for you, but making awareness that it is zoning and planning, city ordinances that do not allow me to get housing in this community.
A person hasn't spoken.
Sherry.
Hello? Okay. I'm Sherry Rush from Traverse County, former social worker, but currently a coordinator of an adult socialization program for adult mental health. My question is, you can have all the programs available, but if they have no means of transportation to get to them, we're back at step one. My question is, and Christine, Kesha, help me if I misrepresent myself here. I'm under the understanding that when the grant is provided for some of these programs, there can be no owned assets and so forth. Is there any chance that there could be a state level leasing program for these programs that support mental health to get access to a vehicle? Because many times there isn't a reliable or available vehicle.
Well, thank you for the question. I'll try to not be on my soapbox too much here, but hopefully this comes back on. Yes, take 1, 2. There, I think it's coming. Sherry, thanks for the question, and I'm going to just touch on the housing briefly, quick, and then I'll get back to it. To the answer Jordan gave, I agree, and something we work on. We need more housing, but unfortunately, the state policies in Minnesota have overdone the mandates, such that Minnesota is an island out here, and Housing First, the group that Jordan referenced, I used to sit on the housing committee, and the cost of building in Minnesota with local impact fees and permit costs, all the way up to the mandated sprinklers in houses of certain size, to windows, certain requirements for windows, et cetera, Minnesota was somewhere between $50,000 and $70,000 more per unit to build. And so that's some serious cash. Most of us don't have that kind of extra money sitting around, and that's the kind of cost. So Irma Dean, right? You were talking about the Section 8? Emma Jean? Oh, Irma Dean's your sister. That's I thought you said Irma Dean, so very good. Emma Dean, so that's, I agree, the housing supply is a big problem. The other thing the state has done that's exacerbated that recently in rural Minnesota is now enforcing the prevailing wage laws that were not being enforced on rural housing for years and years. And basically there was a looking past the statute, but it was working better for housing projects. I just had somebody 2 weeks ago, not in my district, but somebody I've known that's more in south central Minnesota. They're working on a big housing project down towards the Mankato area, rural Mankato, and they're going to end up scrapping it because of prevailing wage, because this new requirement now is going to add about 50% cost to their housing project, where 5 years ago it wouldn't have been required. And so that's an issue, but it gets to the cost issue. Sherry, you talked about the transit issue as well. Good idea. What's that? Right, and so maybe there's an area, this idea in the Twin Cities, of course they have much greater population, so it works, but there may be still a way to make this model work. There is models in Minneapolis, St. Paul, where people can become part of a co-op, if you will, or a network, and they can rent a car by the hour or by the day in these certain sites. Now, you have to have a pretty good critical mass to make that work, but my point of bringing it up is this idea can incubate, and maybe there's a way. But here's what I would suggest we tie it into, and I want to make you aware of. Legislation that I authored this past for the past few years, but this year we were successful in getting it through for rural transit. And the idea came up to me in another meeting like this 5, 6, 7 years ago, about when Uber was just becoming more and more popular. We all know what Uber is. We barely knew what Uber was 7 and 10 years ago. But the idea is more rural Uber mixed in with the rural transit, and the point of it is how can we bring dynamic transit opportunities like an Uber system with a county or a regional dispatched transit system. So we have a study going right now I worked with the transportation chair in the Senate. It's passed this year, and there is a study going on to report back next year to the legislature, working with rural providers and other providers such as Uber, Lyft, and other dynamic transit platforms. These are options that 10 years ago weren't even available. And so how do we take these now web-based transit options and work with regionals areas like Alexandria, where there has been some Uber on a limited basis. But if we could now take transit needs for people even in Traverse County, put them in a Uber if they do not need a wheelchair lift or other vehicle, and then free up some of those vehicles that are sometimes short in supply that do have a wheelchair lift, because about 70% of persons with disabilities are ambulatory and do not need a wheelchair lift. Well, it's cheaper to have a car like an Uber be able to be part of the provider network than having every vehicle out there with a lift that might not make as many vehicles available. And so that's the whole idea of the study that's going on right now. So stay tuned, but get involved, because this is a good topic, and it's near and dear to my heart, because I think we can do better with the money we have just by incorporating some of these new innovative ideas, which we are seeing in the metro area, but I think we can have them. We can have them out here in rural Minnesota as well. We just got to put the connections together.
We are out of time, but because I know you're all, you know.
Elected officials or candidates, you have like 5 seconds as a closing comment. Okay, so I'm going to start down at this end.
Well, I just do have one question for the lady with the drivers. Quick question. Do you have enough drivers? No, that's a problem. We have that problem in Todd County. Okay, but now I'm going to turn it off. I'm just saying those problems, and I don't see Uber working in Browerville.
First off, just wanted to say thank you for sharing all your stories, Senator Westrom, who has to run, and I really appreciate the feedback on a whole bunch of issues. And these are the ideas that we get to take to the Capitol come January and share with our colleagues and to try to see what we can do to improve mental health, disability services here in our area. And my only encouragement to you would be keep on sharing your stories, keep on looking for opportunities to collaborate with local partners and state partners. And thank you for your work being here today, and really appreciate your engagement. So thank you.
All right, so we're going to turn it over. Keisha, where'd you go? One final round of applause for our legislators and candidates.
Thank you to Sue as well. Sue comes up free of cost for us and does a great job moderating this and all for your mental health advocacy in the field. I set my notes somewhere so I don't forget stuff. If the vendor booths, if you had a prize you were going to give away, why don't you guys start to work your way up this way and we'll draw prizes. While they're doing that, in your folder there is an evaluation sheet. We love to hear feedback on that. You guys kind of help guide what this event is, and then when you're done with your evaluations, you can leave them on the table, or there is a basket by the door. What else did I forget? Joyce is still up here with her books, so if you are interested in a book or getting that signed, she is still here. And then if you are a person who claims a stipend for conversation, stop back at the registration booth to sign out for your stipend.